Groups are used in many courses for different reasons. Let's take a look at some of the ways that you can use them. To create groups, click on the Groups link in your course website. You can also access that exact same point by going to Course Admin and then clicking on Groups. Either approach works. On a new course, there won't be any groups to find just yet. We can start by clicking on Create New Category. We will create groups for one purpose, for example for a workshop, and then we will come back and use the New Category button again to make groups for another purpose, for example a group called Assignments. Let's start with that workshop example. Click on New Category, and then we have the option to give it a name. Fill in a description, and we can choose how the students are to be grouped. 6 options are possible. The first 3 are where you, as the instructor or teaching assistant, manually assign students into the groups. Either you can choose groups of a certain number, for example groups of 5, or you can choose how many groups you want, for example 4, 3, or 7 groups. The last 3 options are where students can choose to enroll themselves in a group. If you select any of these last 3 options, students also have the ability to unenroll from the group and re-enroll themselves in another. You can set a cutoff date and time by which they need to do that. Let's try the self-enrollment example for a workshop now. We want 3 groups with self-enrollment, and there is a capacity of 35 students per group. Fill in those numbers, 35 students per group and 3 groups. We can give it a prefix, for example workshop, and then Brightspace will create names workshop 1, 2, and 3 for us. We can then go modify those names. We can also add an expiry on when students can choose to self-enroll. In other words, this is the deadline for them to make up their mind which group they want to be in. After that deadline, we can have Brightspace allocate unenrolled students into a group. We will ignore the option of lockers, discussion areas, assignment submission folders, since that is not appropriate or needed for a workshop. We will come back to these later though, for other group uses. Click Save. Now we have those 3 groups, and we can go modify their names and add a bit of a description over here. We can also see at any moment who is currently enrolled in these groups. We can also go manually add students into a group. Click on the Enroll Users button, and here we can then filter this list by people who are currently enrolled or not enrolled in a group. So we can use this, for example, to manually enter and make changes to our groups if needed. Some things to watch out for. When you go and enroll users manually, as shown here, this list can be very long and may not show the entire class. For very large classes, this will be a problem. You can click Save and make your changes, and come back and then go to the next page, 2 of 3, 3 of 3, for example. Also, when scrolling from left to right, the current theme in Brightspace does not always show the username anymore once you go to the screen to the right. So this is less helpful when you need to enroll manually very large numbers of students. In that case, we want you to contact Brightspace support. We have a way to work around this. There is one restriction currently in Brightspace, and that is if you want students to be able to start their group enrollment on a certain date and time. That is not currently possible. In other words, once you have created the groups in Brightspace, if a student logs into the system and sees the groups being available, they can sign up right away. You cannot postpone that to some particular date and time in the future. Our advice then is, only create the groups on the day that students can start to enroll. We are looking at some workarounds. Please contact Brightspace support to see what the current status of that is. Now, other videos in this series will consider group lockers, group discussion forums, and using groups for assignments. Please watch those if you need them for your course.